Hey everybody, listen to 91.5 WUMLL. I'm DJ Rob.
I'm DJ CJ.
That's what I was waiting for. And and we're doing an interview today to promote the Songwriters in the Round at One Broadway Collaborative on February 4th. And it's a pretty exciting show for me. It is the first show that I've been booked on ever where I'll be playing keyboard. It is also the first show that I've been booked on where I'll be doing music in like 5 or 6 years. So it's very exciting for me. And we're joined with the other two musicians on the show, Amanda Vantine and Sabrina Lambros.
Hello.
Thank you guys for being here. And of course, Chris, who's in the office here too. So how are you guys?
Pretty good. Loving the snow day. Loving that it's a Saturday. My job doesn't permit me to not go to work if it snows like this. So I'm always thankful when the snow days hit on a weekend so that I don't have to drive in it because it's treacherous.
Yeah, somebody who drives for a living, I'm very glad that my work closed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of actually on the other end where it's like, if this had been a school day, I wouldn't have had school.
You're like, that would have been really great.
Yeah. So like my kids in school, for those of you listening, I am a middle school music teacher. My kids in school were like, oh, why is it on a weekend? We're not going to even miss any school. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, I think it's always really funny when I like join in on the school stinks conversation. Like,
yeah.
Of course, I know that school is important and I'm here to help them learn. But also, it's funny when we're all like, yeah, I can't wait for the weekend. Like,
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I feel like you would be, well, you are already, but I feel like you'd just be a great music teacher because you're like relatable and like easy to talk to and stuff. I feel like the kids think you're like the cool teacher.
Some of them do. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Some of them do. Some of them just any person who's quote unquote the man will be the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if I'm like, hey, tell me what kind of music you listen to and we'll make this lesson about it, they don't care. They just want to oppose someone because I'm telling them you have to be sitting in a seat, but we'll do whatever you want. Like they still are like, I have to sit in a seat. This woman's the devil. Like, so it's kind of like, but then afterwards, because I don't have my kids for the whole year. So after I'm done with them, because they move on to a different specialist teacher like art or gym or after they're done with me, they'll see me in the hallway and be like, Miss, I miss your class so much. Can I come back to music? And I'm like, you pelted
what was
me
worse,
with
music or dodgeball?
Yeah. You pelted me with paper balls all class and now you're saying you miss me? Like, what?
That must be rewarding though, in a sense, because you know that the kids are like, yeah, no, that was a good class. And I bet like in retrospect, they're like, oh, music was fun. Like I had a cool middle school teacher. Like I can remember the name of my middle school music teacher. She was psychotic, but she was really, really talented.
That's why you remember the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Santos. She moved to Florida.
I was gonna say that was a close call.
I don't know if we broke her or what, but she was an amazing pianist and a really talented, like just good at reading sheet music on the spot and stuff, just like little things like that. But oh man, she hated us.
Oh man, she hated us.
She did, and I felt bad because I was like one of the kids in class who enjoyed being there. And I was like, everyone be cool, you're going to make her mad. And then she's like, freaks out. See, now we're not going to do any music today because you guys had to act up.
Yeah, in middle school, we had two different band teachers. Like one teacher took half the city and the other took half the other city. And they ended up getting married and having kids.
How quaint.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
That's so funny. That's like when my students ask me, like, because there have been a couple times in conversation that my boyfriend has come up just because they ask you about your personal life and what'd you do this weekend?
Nosy.
Oh, I did this. And they're like, what does he do? And I'm like, he's also a music teacher. And they're like, do music teachers are they just with each other? Is that how it works?
Yes.
They just come in pairs naturally.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm very excited for this show. I've not formally worked with either one of you, though I've worked with both of you privately. Amanda and I attempted to be in a band together. It didn't work out, but it was a lot of fun.
It was.
And Sabrina and I have written a song together, which was also a lot of fun, that I assume you will probably do at this event. If you don't, I will.
Okay, you told me not to do it because you said you were going to do it.
That was not for this event. That was something completely different. That was something
No,
like 2 months ago.
That was 2 months ago when we were planning this event.
Oh, well, I don't care who does it. Just I want someone to do it.
Okay. So
if I do it, I'm doing the chords I wrote.
So here's the thing. Developing my set for this has been tricky because there are songs that I feel like people who know my music know me for. And I feel like I should at least play some of those, if not all of them.
The crowd pleasers, yeah.
Crowd pleasers, exactly. But then there are also songs where it's like, no one's heard this song, but I'm very proud of it. Should I use this as a platform to show it? There are other songs that are like, you know, have I outgrown this song? I perform it well, but I don't know if it still fits who I am as an artist. There's a lot that goes into deciding what you think will best represent you as an artist when you're creating a set. So I was thinking, I mean, honestly, lately, the song that me and Max wrote, it's one of my favorite recently written songs of mine. And I'm thinking maybe this would be a good platform for it. But today I was in bed, like in the morning, and I was like, it hit me. And I turned to Peter. I'm like, Peter, there's another song that I forgot about. It's going on the set. I'm going to have to bump something. And he's like, Sabrina, it's 10 a.m. Like, can
I have coffee and then we'll chat about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost had the same problem. Just I didn't think I had 7 originals. I texted Max back after he invited me and I was like, that sounds terrifying. I'm in. But I didn't think I had that many originals. And then I started going through like old journals and the notes section of my phone. And I was like, I have so many songs that I've written over the last 3 years that I write, play it once, never show it to anyone, file it away, forget it entirely about it. And then I pull it out and I'm like, this is decent. Like, I don't know why I just let it collect dust right there. But so I did, you know, bring out all those and I had more than 7 and I was having trouble picking. And then the other day, I don't know about you guys, but when I write a song, I typically do it all in one go. Like something will come over me. I'll sit down at the keys. I'll find chords I like. And then before I know it, I've got like at least the first like chorus and a couple verses.
I'm the opposite. That's so funny.
Is it? Yeah. Everyone's different too. Everyone really is different. Like some people, like Alex will like work at something over and over again for months and tweak it and go back to it. Like I'll typically write it out, maybe change lyrics or like add a chord change here and there. But once I write it, it's all in one go typically. So that happened to me the other day where I had my 7 songs set and I had practiced them and was ready to go. And then I sat down and ended up writing a whole nother song that I resonate with much more than like a couple others. So now I've got to go back through and basically rearrange everything to figure out what's what. But that's crazy. So you guys write songs, or I don't know about you, Max, but you, Sabrina, write songs over time. Do you like go back to them, chords first, lyrics first? How do you guys do it?
So that's an awesome question. For me, it is definitely in pieces. And then it feels amazing to have that session when I finally piece something together. Like I actually often write lyrics and melody simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so I will come up with words. And as I'm coming up with the words, I'm thinking of how I want to sing them. And then once I have a melody, I harmonize that. I'm like, what chords would I want in this melody? Which I know is like kind of backwards to what a lot of people do. But that's just kind of my process. And typically sometimes I'll only come up with 2 lines. Sometimes I'll come up with a whole verse. Sometimes I'll come up with the chorus. But then I'll revisit something later and be like, this was a cool song. Let me finish writing it. For example, my most, now the song that I'm known most for because it's on streaming platforms, Someone to Miss, I started that song and finished it a year later. Like I wrote a verse and a chorus and I was like, this is awesome. This is some of my best writing yet. And then promptly forgot about it for a year. And then I was in school and I actually had an assignment in class that was like, write a song. I was in a class about how to teach general music. So how to do the job that I do now, which was kind of funny, but I was in this class and they're like, write a song, then you will perform it for the class. And I was like, you know what? I already started one forever ago. What if I finish it? So finishing it, then when you have the added perspective of time, Like, I knew how the song ended. Like, back then I was writing like this idea. I now knew how I felt about it a whole year later. I had this different perspective. I was able to add more to it, and it came a lot easier to finish it. Last night, it's so funny. I was writing, the same thing happened to me. I started a song probably a year ago. I don't think it'll make it onto my set, so I'll talk a little about it. It's basically the concept of like, you know, the tagline of the song is like, can we just coast for a night? Like, can we do nothing other than coast and not expect anything of ourselves?
Yep.
We can be better in the morning. Let's just coast. And that's what the song is about. And I started it again like a year ago. And then I was chatting with my boyfriend, Peter, and he was talking to me about like, we wanted to write a song, but we didn't know what about. He's like, what if you wrote about your favorite show? Like, write about your favorite episode. I'm like, you know, that inspires me about the coasting idea that I had a year ago. Like, let's unearth that. Let's write that. So I had only had 2 lines back then. In 30 minutes, we finished the whole song last night.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We finished an entire, and it's the fastest we've ever written together. And it was crazy because it was like, I already had the hook. So I just had to flesh out, what else am I supposed to say in this? So honestly, I think I prefer starting a song, revisiting it later, and adding my perspective that has grown since I started it.
It almost lets it ferment, and then it changes everything. When you go back to it, you feel like you're almost like a third-party viewer, where you can view it in this way that makes it easier to edit, change. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Max. I was just going to say that it, you know, sometimes the story has fleshed itself out a bit in that time. Like, for example, the coasting idea, that was just something that was myself, you know, thinking about, oh, can we just coast? But then I started resonating with it now, because there are a lot of times that Peter and I will try to keep each other accountable to our goals. And sometimes I just want to hit snooze on him and be like, thank you for keeping me accountable. I have to check back with you in this in the morning because I just want to coast tonight. So I was kind of drawing on stuff that I've done in our relationship that when I first started this song, I didn't even know him. One of my favorite songs I've ever written, and then I will stop monologuing and pass the mic back to Max. But this song that I started writing, this was one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. And I've since retired it because I feel like I've outgrown it a little, but I was with this, it was in high school. I was with this person that made me very happy. And I started writing a breakup song while we were very happy. And it made no sense to me. It just, this story was coming out of me. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. So I wrote probably about half the song, and then I bookmarked it. I was like, this doesn't feel like the right time. Maybe it will at some point. Then a year later, we start having problems. I look back at the song. That song was foreshadowing the problems.
Oh, wow.
It was like, it was this song about how like the person you're with isn't really letting you be who you are, and you want them to appreciate you for you and not try to change you. And I had never had any of those problems with him before. But then when I was starting to write the song, again, I realized, oh, this is exactly fleshed out how I was predicting it to. And then I finished the song, and finishing the song gave me the confidence to break up with him.
Wow.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
I tied a bow around it. I'm like, this is a great story. You know what would give it the best end? If I acted on it. And I did.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I was just going to say that, like, I write everything in one sitting. Like, I do lyrics always first. Like, I've never not done lyrics first. And then I just, once I'm at least half satisfied, like, I'll revise lyrics forever.
Oh, same.
Once I, like, am somewhat satisfied with the lyrics, I just make up a piano line. And that is the piano line forever.
Yep.
and then I'm pretty much done. Like, I wrote a new song Wednesday, and it's kind of a response to like a lot of what was going on in my EP. The EP I put out last year, assignment was an assignment for school, but it's angry, and it talks about like just anger and mortality and hate and sadness. And the song I wrote Wednesday is kind of a response of like
you're like, I'm still mad, but not as mad like not that mad, not as mad as before.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think it might be the best song I've ever written. Like, I did it in the open mic I host online that you guys have both frequented, and it easily got the best response of anything I've ever written. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. Are you doing it at the thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. It's one of those things like I feel like I have to do stuff like my song Advocate, because like that was the first thing I wrote, and like I've done that more than anything else. Like if you've ever heard me play keyboard live or online, you've almost certainly heard me do Advocate.
Yep.
And like I'll probably do a couple other things from that EP because I actually released it and some people actually heard it, so maybe it'll, you know, be familiar to people in the audience. But a lot of what I'm going to do is stuff that I haven't released anywhere. Like, just stuff I've written in the last year, give or take, that doesn't have a home yet. So I'm excited to debut stuff, I guess, for a live audience in that sense. And I'm psyched to not have to do the same 5 songs forever. Because, like, I love the song Advocate. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it. Like, I'm very proud of that song. But, like, and like there's a song on my EP called Death Exercise that the only time I ever played it all the way through was to record the EP. I never rehearsed it all the way through, and then I've not played it since because I think it's just too sad. Like it's just like, we're all gonna die and there's nothing we can do about it, and that's the song.
It's true though.
It is true. It is true.
Not a lie.
Like, there's a lot better music out there that has the same point, and I don't know. Like there's definitely a couple of songs on that EP that like I just don't feel that way anymore, and so I don't want to do them anymore. Like for lack of a better word, like on that EP, there's like a very obvious like diss track
about me,
about Chris. Weird that he's on this interview.
Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag. It's about Chris. I hate you. No. But there's like a song in there that's all about like hating a specific person. And I'm really tired of playing that song.
I think you bring up a wonderful point about how like our songs are just little snapshots of how we're feeling. And that means that it is easy to outgrow them. And I almost feel proud when I've outgrown a song. It makes me feel like I felt this way so much that I wrote a whole thing about it. Now I don't
especially when it's negative too.
Yeah. Now I don't even feel this way at all. And you know, I think that's a really cool thing about songwriting too, is like it's not like it's not as committal as writing like a novel. Like if I were to write a novel about something, I would have to believe it through and through and believe it maybe for the rest of my life, because that's so much extended effort towards one project.
Oh man.
A song is sometimes a quick write. Sometimes a song takes a long time, but sometimes a song is a quick write. That gives us the freedom to capture something that might be a little more transient or might be a little more temporary. And then it's really cool when you get to look back and be like, look at these as almost little photographs, as like little markers. Like, this is how I used to be. This is how I am now. So honestly, I think, Max, it's really cool that you outgrew that song, because it not only does it speak to how you've grown, but it also speaks to the temporary nature of the work that we do.
You're writing a song because something feels so heavy and it's ruining your life and it's detrimental and there's this huge weight on you, and then to look back and be like, I don't think I'm going to play that one anymore. I'm not there anymore. I'm not feeling those emotions. Like, it is interesting. I feel like looking back on the songs, like I have some songs on Spotify, like I have like a little album on Spotify and I never promote it. I don't really tell people about it because I recorded them 10 years ago now, and they're just, to me, they sound corny. Like, they just, you know, I was young, I was in high school, I was in, you know, a long-term relationship that ended. It was just very angsty, very teen angsty, and I'm not that person anymore. And looking back through all the songs I have written over the last 5 years, you can watch, it's almost like a play-by-play of like how I've been moving and growing as a person. You can watch the topics that I'm writing about change as I like come into my own and like find what makes me happy and just kind of live my life and gain more experience in those areas. So yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's fun to outgrow it, and it's fun to look back and be like, that was a good song, no matter what it's about. If you wrote it and you're happy with it, like, that was a good song. No one's ever got to hear it again, but it's for me, so it doesn't matter.
And sometimes, in the song I wrote, Advocate, that I mentioned, like, I feel like I've outgrown that song. I feel like that doesn't really apply to my life in the moment, at this moment at least. But I think it's a good song, and I'm not tired of it, so I keep playing it.
That's awesome.
Because I think,
it's interesting to think about when we do get tired of songs. Why do we think that is? Is it because we've played them too many times? Is it because they no longer fit us? Like, that's an interesting thing. And I've actually, as we're preparing for this, I've been trying to figure out how I can have a fresh take on one of my most well-known songs. I play it the same way almost every time, me at the piano doing the same kind of, comping pattern. Like, it has the same feel every time. So I've been trying to mess around with, like, do I play a different instrument for this song? Do I give it a different feel? Like, is this song worth doing the, all clear for and trying to zap it back to life? Like, is it worth it? And it makes me wonder on a platform like this, like, are you supposed to play your biggest hits? Or should this just be like, these are some songs I like, take them or leave them?
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel
like that's the attitude I've adapted for sure.
Yeah. I think it's fun to, like, take something old, and I won't be doing that for this show because I just don't have the time, but I've done this in my open mic a couple of times where, like, I've taken something that I wrote, like 10 years ago, and rewrote it and redid, like, at the time it didn't have a piano part, or no, it did, but I didn't write it and I don't have any record of it, and, like, redoing it. Like, I have a whole song that I used to do a lot about an ex of mine's parents' divorce. It's all about how, like, it can be, like, triggering to buy the same brands that your ex bought at, like, the grocery store, and you no longer have those, like, brand loyalties anymore.
That's a cool concept.
Thank you.
And something you wouldn't think about until you're like, that could be triggering. Like, there's so many little things. Like, it's finding that little nuance that you could write a whole song about. That's just cool.
Thank you. And I wrote that when I was, like, 18. And I think it's a good song lyrically, but I don't remember musically how it sounded. So I've rewritten that a few times. I've also just wrote that as a poem.
I have a song I wrote that I love, and I lost the journal. I need to type up all my songs and get them on, like, Google Docs or something, so that if I spill coffee all over a notebook or, my phone breaks, I'm not losing everything, because I have a song that I really like that I wrote a long time ago, and I've tried to figure out what the chords are, and I, like, can't figure it out. I cannot remember what the chords are. I could sing the lyrics over and over, but I have kind of rewritten it just to play it through all the way, because I don't really remember what the original chords were, and that notebook is long gone. So
I have a song, Rabbit Rabbit, that I think Sabrina's heard, and I'm doing that at the show on the 4th. And I have lost the lyrics and chords like 6 or 7 times now.
Persistence.
But, like, the general idea is one that I'm pretty into, and like the concept. So I've rewritten it, and, like, I think every time it's been better. But I performed it sometime this past week on an online thing, and I had to rewrite the chords because they were just gone. They're in the ether. I don't know what happened to them. And I know every time it's similar, but I know there's no way it's the same.
Yeah. You're, like, in the
drives,
same key.
Yeah. What drives me mad recently is, so my most recent musical endeavor has been learning bass.
Cool.
And it's been a ride. It's honestly, being a beginner at something in music again is really refreshing and helps me empathize with what my students feel when I give them a piano and say, try this. So it's been really refreshing and a good challenge. But, I was trying to learn as many of my songs as I could on bass. Should I play bass on a song on this coming Friday? I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm chewing on it. But what drove me nuts is, like, I when I write songs, I do them a lot by like muscle memory and like, oh, this is how it sounded, but I couldn't maybe rattle off the chord names like off the top of my head easily without sitting at a piano and looking at it and be like, oh, that is an A flat minor. Like it would take me a minute to write out a chord chart of my songs. And maybe that's just me, but Peter is nuts. And it's like, I was playing bass and he was just rattling off the chord names to my songs. I'm like, I hate this. I hate that you're teaching me my song. Like,
that dynamic is like, really fun.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's also funny. It reminds me of what Max was just saying about like losing the chords to your song, like you not even knowing your song enough to know what the chords were. Then like someone else for me is coming in and being like, hey, sweetie, that's an E flat. I'm like, oh no, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. That's something I do want to break a habit of, is I feel like on the Pro, I have developed a playing style that I really like on piano, and it's, you know, something that I feel like I developed to support the type of music that I like to write. But in the same sense, I feel like I've gotten really comfortable in patterns that I need to now break, because I'm keeping myself in a box piano wise, and like I'm not I know chords really well. I could tell you any chord on the piano when you play it, but I don't know keys. I don't know what other chords would sound good in with that chord in a song. Like that for me is really hard. I would have to sit there and like do like the flats and sharps list and try to figure out what key it was in and stuff. And I can play anything, and Alex can come in and just start noodling and playing along on guitar, because he can just find the key so easily, like with a trained ear, and I just don't have that. So lately I've been really focusing on practicing piano again, like sitting down like fresh and trying to do something that challenges me, do something I've never done before, play a song that I used to skip because it's really hard, like just trying to make sure that I'm not doing the same things on piano for every single song, so that each song, while it's still my style, sounds different, because I do have like a fallback pattern on piano that's really noticeable. I feel like I play every song the same, and it's, you know, it sounds nice, but it's ingrained to the point where it might not be beneficial.
Yeah, trying to branch away from your like static feel, that's a tricky thing as a songwriter, because it's like, oh, I like this rhythm, I'll play it in every song that I ever make. And like as I'm sifting through my songs and I'm like, what can I play on Friday? I'm like, oh, well, these 5 have this rhythmic pattern, so maybe I should pick one of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I will like challenge myself sometimes, and like some of these songs I never do anything with, but just as a songwriting challenge, try to write a song in a style of like an artist I like, or just like a band that I like, and try to write something, you know, if it's like more angsty and a heavier rhythm, like just try to write something along those lines, and then write something really slow and ballady. One thing I really appreciate about my brother as a musician, he listens to everything, jazz, R&B, metal, rock, math rock, hardcore metal, like literally any type of music. He will love it. He will listen to it. And I feel like his songwriting is amazing, because he's not in a box. He'll practice metal rock, he'll practice bass, he can play pretty much every instrument. He's crazy, but he will purposefully make himself listen and play along to types of music that he doesn't play, because it just helps him get new rhythm patterns. He can play in different time signatures with ease. Like that's something I appreciate that he does, that I really want to start doing and have tried to start doing, is just pushing myself to try to play along with other things that I find challenging or out of my range, you know?
And you know, the concept of a songwriting challenge, that's actually something that I've been playing with recently. Me and some of my friends started doing the songwriting challenge on Zoom, where, you know, we'd get together, which I have to invite you both to this the next time I do it. Mm-hmm. But basically we get together on a Zoom call, have a prompt, like write something about these 2 words, write something about this image.
That sounds so fun.
Go. So you give them a time constraint, and then at the end of the hour, everyone shares what they came up with, and then you all kind of chat about like, oh, I love when you did this. Have you thought about adding to it this way? Like, it's kind of like an open forum for like unpacking what we ended up creating.
That's so fun. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I would love to participate.
I would love to have you both at my next one. I should actually do it very soon because I've been itching for another songwriting challenge. But basically, the concept of writing within parameters. Sometimes parameters help you come up with something you would have never come up with. Like,
corny example, that song, Love Song by Sarah Bareilles. I'm not gonna write you a love song.
Yeah.
She wrote that because her producer or her manager came to her and said, you need to write a pop song. It's got to be a love song. And then she wrote that because he put her in this box, and that was like a huge hit. So it can be a little bit challenging, but in a good way that like almost makes you work a little harder for the same thing.
And also looking at how different everyone's responses are
when you do
a songwriting challenge. Like, for example, you know, we did the songwriting challenge I ran. It was on New Year's Day. I made the prompt be New Year. And
that's fun. That's a good one.
Each person came up with something different. One of my friends made like a house track that sounded like a New Year's Eve party. Like it was perfect. My song was like me pretending to be Billie Eilish for the 17th time, like, you know, writing about something new about the new year, whatever. Like,
same.
someone wrote like, you know, like a funk track, like this is how I want to be in my new year, so this is what I'm gonna write. Peter wrote a metal song, and it was just everyone's different take on the same prompt inspires you to be like, maybe I should think a little differently next time. I should challenge myself to write in a genre or a style that is unfamiliar to me.
Yep. That sounds so fun. I feel like the most fun part would be hearing how everyone else does with the same prompt that you had. Yeah. It just goes to show everyone's techniques are different, playing style is different, writing style is different. And when you combine all those, I feel like that could be such a cool melting pot, not to like mooch off of other people, but like you said, idea sharing, to get cool ideas from something that's not someone that's not in your head, and they've got their own reality, their own experiences that they're basing everything off of, and just kind of milking off of that. And yeah, like you said, pushing yourself to write in a genre that you don't normally listen to or write in. That sounds so fun. I definitely want to participate next time.
Definitely. I'll invite you both to it, because it was small the first couple of times I did it, but I'm like, you know what? I should expand this. Like, the bigger crowd we pull, maybe the more ideas we have. So yeah, I'd love to do another one with you guys soon. Maybe because I got the idea from Max's open mics, the Zoom open mics. I'm like, you know, this is brilliant, getting a group of artists together to do something and, you know, share it in a virtual platform. Like, the same thing can go for a songwriting challenge. We don't have to all be in the same room. And that's why I was able to incorporate, you know, friends from LA and friends from New York. And like, you know, we were able to all come together, and these people were like, we've never met before, but hey, you produce really well. Like,
yeah. And actually, speaking of doing stuff online, just to plug it again, we're doing our show February 4th, which is Friday at 7 p.m. It is available to live stream. So if you don't live around here, or you're worried about COVID or anything, or you're not vaccinated, it can be live streamed.
Cool.
I can't wait to get my grandma to live stream it.
I was going to say, you hear that, Mom?
Yeah, so it'll be live streamed also at 7. Ticket information is available at onebroadway.org. But Chris had something to say.
I was going to say, I wanted to jump back a bit here. Sabrina, you mentioned that you sort of let a song come to you over like the course of a year. And I know, Max, you said you like to sit down and just sort of force yourself to write out a song in one day if you can. And I was curious from both of your perspectives, and Amanda, I'm not sure where you sort of sit on this entire thing.
Halfway, right on the fence in between them.
I'm curious from both of your perspectives, because they're sort of at the extremes of both ends. Many artists nowadays are almost pressured into releasing a certain number of songs per year, or like an album every year. And I guess starting with Sabrina, because that's very different to the way it sounds like you write your music, I'm curious if you see any disadvantages with that process, or Max, you sort of seeing like you're in a similar situation, if you see any advantages to doing it that way.
I see it as mostly a parameter that might help. You know, because as naturally I'm writing songs, I'll unearth something from a year ago and finish it, blah, blah, blah. But as we were just saying, sometimes the best songwriting can come from giving yourself an almost unfair parameter and then having to meet the challenge. I feel like if I was, you know, working for some label that said, Sabrina, you need to finish 5 songs in the next 2 weeks, go. I think that actually might motivate me to maybe unearth some of those old seeds of ideas and finish them. So even if it would still be my process of taking something old and finishing it later. But, you know, it might not look like me sitting down in one go and finishing a whole song. But if I have all these seeds sitting around, it would give me the motivation to finish something.
Yeah.
So honestly, I know it probably sounds counter to what you'd expect me to say, but I think that the parameters and can actually really help push you, because without a deadline, this is what I've realized with a lot of art, without a deadline, most things don't get done.
You will procrastinate to the death. Yes, absolutely.
I feel like even self-imposed deadlines are incredibly helpful to finishing any project.
And you can even call it goal setting, but just having some sort of cutoff point of like, this is the goal, this is when I need to have this done or whatever. It is, definitely a healthy thing to do for yourself.
So maybe the way I'd accommodate for myself in my writing style would be, instead of saying, oh, I have to finish this song by tomorrow, instead I'd say I have to finish a song by tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably unearth something old and finish it, versus starting from square one and blah, blah, blah. Like, it would probably look a little different for me than for some other writers, but I still think the parameter thing is incredibly helpful to creating something that you're proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. My answer, I guess, is I rarely have to follow any kind of parameters, because it's not never, but not very often that I have to do songwriting at a deadline. But deadlines definitely help me, and I definitely like the EP assignment was 4 out of those 5 tracks were literally for a college assignment. If I didn't have that deadline, I probably wouldn't have actually released that EP, or if I did, it wouldn't have looked like it does. It probably would have come out worse. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know if that answers you, Chris, but that's the best.
No, I mean, that's interesting, because it sort of tied into the constraint discussion that you were having a couple of minutes ago, where that sort of forces you to write in a way that you otherwise probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I feel like for me personally, a deadline could be beneficial, but on the same side, I am very emotionally attached to my music, and I feel like a lot of the songs that I write that I love or I'm really proud of came in a deeply emotional state. I almost get in the zone, if you will, and when I write it, I'm able to just express myself in a really inept way. So I feel like putting a deadline on that, like Chris, what you said, if we had a year to release 5 songs, I could do it, but how attached or how good they'd be it would depend on literally how that year was for me, basically, what my experiences were, the main emotion or the main personality state of the year. I've had years that were great and then years that were absolutely terrible, but those years that were terrible, I wrote great music because I was sad. So it just really kind of would depend on my emotional state. I think I could definitely do it. I think it would be a challenge if I wasn't feeling that depth to try to churn out something that was still authentic.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't know too much about the music industry as a whole, but I do know that music labels sometimes will tell an artist, we don't want you to release this song that you really like, or we're going to have you release this song that you really weren't a fan of that you wouldn't have released otherwise. So I certainly see some advantages from being independent in the music industry as well, where you can sort of choose what you like and what to release.
Yep.
And that reminds me of how I have, I've talked to some of my students who, if I perform for them or show them a song I've written, a lot of them will ask, Miss Lambros, why aren't you a singer? Why are you a teacher? Why did you choose to be a teacher and not a singer? And honestly, a lot of it is the outside pressure of of labels, of being told no all the time, of needing a really thick skin around your artwork. I still can be a musician who gigs, writes, records, releases without it being my day job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me, as I was telling my students, teaching music is a dream day job for me, because I get to do music all day long, but instead of this cutthroat competitive aspect to what I do it day in and day out, instead I'm helping others do it too. Mm-hmm. I'm creating a collaborative environment where we all get to make music, where I get to share musical joy with other people. that's kind of where it comes in, is like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your passion? Do you want it to be your day job, or do you want to have a little breathing room from it so that you can really do it for fun?
Yeah,
absolutely. And I resonate deeply with what you just said, developing a thick skin. I am so attached and emotional about my music that I don't think if somebody told me they really thought what I wrote was garbage and it was a song I loved and worked hard on, I would crumble, because I just get so like emotionally, that's how I express myself, is through my songs and my songwriting. So it would basically be someone telling me that I'm invalid or something, or not enough, not good enough. Like, I just don't think I could take the pressure. And plus, like you said, like, doing music, that's your dream job, but would it be your dream job to be under constant pressure and like having people, like you said, tell you no or not like things, want to change who you are, what your image is, all that stuff? I feel like music is only one aspect of being like a career singer or like a recording musician. The music itself is like one role, but then you're expected to do all these other things and be all these other things. And I feel like it's easy to get disconnected from the music itself with all the pressure that there is today.
yeah.
And I feel like I couldn't handle that pressure. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, I think as dreary as it is, that might be a good leaving off point. But do you guys want to plug where people can find your music or your social medias or stuff like that?
You first, Sabrina. I was just listening to your song today, by the way. It's excellent. What you just put on Spotify. I loved it.
Oh, someone to miss?
It made me melt like liquid chocolate, girl.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so if you want to find my stuff, I have currently been releasing my music under the stage name Sabrina Elle. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, any place that music is streamed, TikTok, Instagram. That's where. So I'm at Sabrina Elle Music on Instagram and TikTok. And then if you can find me on Facebook under that same name as well. So if you're looking for my music, Sabrina Elle is what I produce under.
You can find me on Facebook at Amanda Vantine music page, also under Paradise. Alex and I are in a duo group called Paradise right now, and we have a lot of stuff on YouTube. I have some stuff on Spotify. Like I said, it's older stuff, but if you want to get a feel for what my voice sounds like and stuff, you can find me under Amanda Vantine on Spotify and listen to my really old album. It's on Apple Music as well. I'm working more so on recording. Basically, the songs I'm going to play on the 4th are like the demo CD that I've been working on for about a year and a half. So it's going to be something, everything will be new, but I'm looking for a recording studio in the area to kind of produce it with no strings attached and just like make it my perfect little baby. So, but you can find me under Amanda Vantine Music pretty much anywhere.
Cool. And you can find me at this show. And you can find me at Malice Comedy, MALICE Comedy on Instagram. If you have questions for these people or anything like that, you can message that Instagram account. I'll get you in the right direction. The show is February 4th at 7 p.m. at One Broadway Collaborative, or you can go to onebroadway.org for information about that. Immediately following this show at 10 o'clock on the same night, same venue, same everything else, is a comedy show with Dominique Jesse James hosting, Xavier Maurice opening, I'm featuring, and Sam Mangano is headlining, and it should be a really fun night of arts. Thank you guys so much for doing this with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.